All right. Hi, welcome everyone. Welcome to tonight's program with Bay Area artist and producer Leroy Moore. Very, very excited to have Leroy here tonight. My name is Sasha Wurtzel. I'm the Director of Access and Community Programs here at the Whitney, and I wanted to just start by welcoming you and also just giving a few notes about Access and about tonight's program. So first of all, you should feel free to get up and move around the space throughout the program. Don't be shy about that. We have drinking fountains and accessible restrooms located on this floor, including an all-gender single-stall accessible restroom. You just make 2 rights out of the theater, and then you'll find them. Also, I just wanted to let you know that if you have any other access requests or there's anything we can do to better your experience tonight, you can speak to me. I'll be sitting over here with my colleagues, Madison and Justin, who maybe is not up here yet. So we're gonna start with about a 40-minute performance and kind of presentation from Leroy. Then we're gonna take a short intermission, and then we'll come back and we'll be joined by Park McArthur, Carolyn Lazard, and Constantina Zavitsanos for a conversation and a Q&A with all of you. I also wanted to mention that there's some merch, some CDs and books by Leroy. I'm holding one right here, that are outside the theater if you're interested. Thank you so much for coming. Thank you, Leroy, Tina, Park, Carolyn, and everyone at the Whitney who made this event possible.
Thank you, Sasha, and thank you, Madison and Justin, and everyone in the Access and Community Programs Department at the Whitney. I'm Carolyn, by the way. And thank you all for coming. I wrote this introduction as a letter to Leroy. Dear Leroy, I'm so incredibly honored that Park, Tina, and I were given the opportunity to invite you to present your work here. I first met Tina and Park, even though we were all aware of each other before, at an Access Intimacy workshop that they put together at the New Museum 2 years ago. This, in many ways, was my first introduction to disability justice as a way to think through our shared world. I think it was Tina who suggested that you and I become friends on Facebook. At this point, I'd spent a lot of time community building with other chronically ill people, but had not yet drawn a relationship between chronic illness as an experience and disability as a political framework. Leroy, your work opened me up to a new and radical understanding of disability. I had for a long time been holding my disability in one hand and my blackness in the other, which makes sense as we know that disability, in the media and its public representation, is often coded as white and cis and male and straight. It was from you that I learned that my mind-body was irreconcilable with the police state and how the bodies of Black disabled folks are targets for destruction as a result of this irreconcilability. That our analysis of the criminal justice system is incomplete without a fully intersectional approach that centers disability. You have used Krip-Hop as an art form, as an educational platform, as a means to build solidarity between international Crip communities, and most importantly, as a celebration of disability, of pleasure, and our radical joy. After being a longtime admirer of your work, we started working together as part of the Harriet Tubman Collective, a group of Black disabled activists and advocates. We would meet periodically in video chats to discuss strategies for dismantling Black disability erasure in activist circles and creating awareness around police terrorism and mass incarceration as issues that disproportionately affect the Black disabled community. In the infinite diversity of voices within the organization, you always stood out to me as a relentless agitator. You have an uncompromising taste for radical praxis. You are a leader, an elder, and a mentor in and out of our community. You are no bullshit. You say it how it is. And in this world of deferred honesty, we need people like you more than ever. We're so glad that you're here. Now, I'm just going to read a brief bio. Moore is co-founder of the Sins Invalid Performance Project and a founding member and current chair of the Black Disability Studies Working Group with the National Black Disability Coalition. Moore's poetry and lyrics book, The Black Cripple Delivers Poetry and Lyrics, was published by Poetic Matrix Press in the winter of 2015. He is currently writing a Krip-Hop book, and his children's book, Black Disabled Art History 101, will be published in summer 2017 by Social Justice Press. Please welcome Leroy Moore.
I'm gonna cry. Thank you so much, and thank you, the Whitney Museum, for inviting me. I grew up in New York back in the 70s and 80s, where it was a total different New York. I used to pass the Whitney all the time. So when I told my mom I'm gonna be at the Whitney, she's like, "Say what?" Yeah, that's what I said. I said, I don't know. Yeah. So thank you once again. And I'm gonna read off my presentation. The presentation is long. I'm gonna try to make it into 40 minutes. So beware of my ability to pack things in, but I think it's gonna be good. So here we go. So before starting, I'd like to say thank you once again to the Whitney. And also I want to say it's very hard being back in New York, because I grew up here in the 80s, 70s and 80s. And as I stand here today, you know, the co-founder of Krip-Hop, Rob Denoy's Temple in Brooklyn, is being gentrified out of Brooklyn. He lived there since the 80s. So as we go on to this presentation, please remember our ancestors that are covered up by concrete, our Native American ancestors, and remember all the people that have been gentrified out of New York. So the summary is that on this presentation, I will speak and share through stories, poetry, interviews, visual, and lectures from the U.S., Africa, Brazil, Spain, and Mexico, creating a network in terms like Krip-Hop Nation, in terms like Afro-Krip. We'll get into those terms later. I will cover some of the history of not only Krip-Hop Nation on an international level, but the treatment of Black and brown ancestors through the entertainment industry, going back to freak shows, medicine shows, and yes, museums, and of course the music industry through a multimedia platform. Most of the videos that I will show are captioned, and I will explain the PowerPoint program when we get there. I have a habit of packing my presentations, so I might have to shorten the video clips. So please keep me online about the time. So I'd like to start with a video clip that my friend did in the Bay Area, C.B. Smith. And she did this video clip with my poem entitled Black Disabled Art History 101. That poem and that title is the title of my children's book. So I'd like to show that video right now. Do you know your Black disabled art history? Well, it's about time you learn. This is called Black Disabled Art History 101. Sit down and listen, because there will be a test at the end, displaying and speaking our history and culture through music, art, and dance. From slavery to homeland security, Black disabled artists' roots grow deep. However, this garden is starving for recognition. The most famous classical pianist in the mid to late 19th century was a Black blind autistic slave
Tom Wiggins, aka Blind Tom, was his slave name. His master used him to make money and left him poor and broken. Horace Pippin, the first black disabled self-taught painter, lost his arm in World War I, using his left arm to prop up his right forearm, crafting his first masterpiece depicting horrors of war. Oh, the price he paid for being black, poor, self-taught, and disabled. Blues is the black anthem, attracted blind singers and musicians to make a living on the streets. Some made it into recording studios. Blind Willie Mctell, born in 1898, played on the streets of Atlanta. Blind Willie Johnson, born around 1902, a street evangelist. Stepmother threw a lie in young Johnson's eyes, causing blindness. Johnson became the first gospel guitarist to record. He died of pneumonia. Hospital refused to admit him due to his blindness. Blind Blake and Blind Boone's birthdays are unknown. Blind John William Boone formed his own concert company, traveling all over the country. More than 8,000 concerts in the U.S., Canada, Europe, and Mexico. The most popular male blues recording artist of the 20s was Blind Lemon Jefferson. He was also a street performer, danced to the blues, rock, jazz, and hip-hop vibrations under the Wild Zappers, a black deaf dance troupe, feeling the rhythm from the motherland to the chocolate city. Listen to the melody, heartbeat of a black deaf woman, Jay's fingers. Read, I'm a proud black deaf woman. Let's travel to Jamaica, where in the 50s polio affected the island. Skilly, Wise, and Apple are Israel Vibration. They met each other at Mona Rehabilitation Center, got kicked out because of their religious belief in Rasta. Homeless, poor, and disabled began to sing on the streets. Now they are the fathers of reggae. Back to Africa, tribal dancing, to the drumming, guitar strumming, and singing of Abdul and Marim, a blind married couple, blending rock, pop, jazz, and hip-hop with an international flavor. From Cuba to Asia, India to America, creeping into the hip-hop nation. Paraplegic MC, Fizo, Dave, Mad One, and the Black Cripple. Lifting the roof of oppression that suffocates the hip-hop industry. throwing away the bling bling to create Krip-Hop, politicalizing our communities, coming home to the Bay Area to swing from Charles Curtis Blackwell in a Zavitsanos jazz poetry celebration. So get out your number 2 pencils for your final on Black Disabled Art History 101.
Okay, so who is Leroy? So I'm going to explain who is Leroy by 2 short stories and a poem. The first story starts in the 80s. Before computers, yes, before computers, can you imagine that? 3 Black disabled boys went upstairs to my bedroom and we wrote letters. Yeah, I wrote letters. And we wrote letters for a whole month to Black leaders because we didn't see any Black disabled people in the media, at school, or anywhere. So we wrote the NAACP, Jesse Jackson, Oprah was on TV, we wrote Oprah, the Urban League, and we got foreign letters back saying, oh, there's nothing out there. So that was in the 80s. And I'm still writing, I'm not writing letters, I'm writing emails. And sometimes we get the same answer. So that's one story. Other story is that I was watching TV. This is the early 80s. I was like, Mom, I'm on TV. I'm on TV. My mom runs out the kitchen. And it's like, oh, son, that's Porgy from Porgy and Bess. I was like, Mom, I'm Porgy? Because that's the first time I saw a Black disabled man on TV. So since that time, I've always picked up the topic of Porgy. And yeah, I was psyched. I was really psyched back then. That's the only, that's the only Black disabled man that I saw. And it was a reflection of myself. And that was, like I said, early 80s. And the third story is a poem. And it talks about New York in the 80s and hip-hop and myself being disabled. It's called My Job Outside of Hip-Hop Ciphers in the 80s. Outside of ciphers in the 80s, my body mattered. I used to stutter, scared to get in. Police swept by, and that was the end. Black youth scattered, left me right there with my walker. New York was hard back then. From Connecticut to New York, around the bend, ready with my poems to read. As I got closer to the cipher, always chickened out. All the boys were muscular. They called me the watchman. One eye looking for the cops, the other on the NC DJs and break dancers, yelling, "Po-po!" Like always, they scattered. Po-po looked at me with anger, kicked my walker. I felt good. Always thought I got one over on the NYPD. Black cripple boy cop watching, even back then in the hood. And that's a true story. I used to go to the Bronx from Manhattan and sometimes Connecticut, And, going to the cipher back then, you had to be ready. There's no bullshit, So you picture this, me with my walker, with my skinny legs, going to the South Bronx. And I get there, I was like, oh no, I'm not getting in that cipher. So all the kids is like, okay, you'll be the watchman for the police, because the police won't mess with you because you have a disability. So it's a true story. Yeah. Also, in your seats, there's an interview that I did with Tap Waters. And Tap Waters is a part of Fort Worth City, South Bronx. He couldn't be here today. But I interviewed him to talk about the South Bronx and now with gentrification and, him being a disabled hip-hop artist. So you can read about that and read about the history of the South Bronx and also Fort Worth City. Also, a part of my background in today, I started writing when I was younger. Being disabled, you had a lot of alone time, especially in the 80s. So I used to write a lot of articles. And the first article that got published was the Amsterdam News. And I'm so proud that the Amsterdam News is still around and still in Harlem. And if you get a chance, pick up the Amsterdam News and really support it. That's the first publication. And I'm so glad it's the first black newspaper that really published my work. And after the Amsterdam News, when I moved to San Francisco in '91, the San Francisco Bayview newspaper, another black newspaper, published my articles. So, so I wrote a lot. In the 90s, I started what's called Disability Advocates of Minorities Organization for disabled people of color. And that lasted like 6-7 years. And we did some hella cool stuff back then. And we called it DAMO, at the time, Disability Advocates of Minorities Organization. And in the late 90s, I had a chance to meet with Jane Dudham from New Jersey. And she used to do the New Jersey Disability Coalition. And we got together and we both had the same vision of doing a national organization for black disabled people. She's a parent and an advocate and worked in New Jersey's developmental disability organizations for a long time. Her daughter has a disability and work in Washington. So we got together and now we're still working on the National Black Disability Coalition, and we're working on a black disability curriculum for colleges, because we know that colleges have, black studies, women's studies, queer studies, and disability studies, but nothing on black disabled people. Although there's quite a few of black disabled scholars coming out through academia. So we're working on that. I want to go on and let the artists speak. What is Krip-Hop? Because they really speak it well. So we're going to listen to Renacy. Renacy is a blind hip-hop artist from Richmond. And then we're going to go on with Keith Jones. Keith Jones is from Boston, lives in Sacramento. He's the co-founder of Krip-Hop. And last, we're going to listen to the 10th anniversary of Krip-Hop, like a little commercial. Okay?
What's the business? This your boy, Renaissance. I'm a Northern California, Bay Area, Rich City, which is also known as Richmond, California, based artist. Renaissance is a rapper, producer, as well as singer.
So what do you think about, the hip-hop industry now and hip-hop? Artists with disabilities in the industry.
What Krip-Hop means to me, Krip-Hop means diversity. So in essence, Krip-Hop is simply another component of hip-hop. Hip-hop breaks down into so many subgroups and subcultures and things like that, and Krip-Hop is just simply a part of that. It's based around a group of people who have their own oral expression. It just so happens to deal with people with disabilities in particular. But you know, people with disabilities are just like anybody else, man. Trials, tribulations, the ups, downs, life situations, man, the whole shit. We still eat, sleep, pay bills, pay rent, you know what I mean, deal with expenditures, man. Dealing with this crazy economy right now. Same ordeal, man. But, you know what I mean, it's coupled with, you know what I mean, the fact that you have a disability. Having to show and prove and make your way through society without being hated upon intensely because of your lifestyle, the way you look or appear. But Krip-Hop is a beautiful thing because it brings awareness to a particular group of people, just like hip-hop did in mainstream America. Hip-hop was always used as a tool to educate, and that's what Krip-Hop is using it for. This is your boy, Renaissance.
Hey, what's up? My name is Keith Jones. I'm the co-founder of Krip-Hop Nation. Krip-Hop Nation is more than music. It's about cultural activism by artists with disabilities from around the world. Krip-Hop is more than just music.
In 2007, Krip-Hop Nation was born with our Volume 1 mixtape with hip-hop artists with disabilities all over the world. Since that day, Krip-Hop Nation lives up to our tagline, Krip-Hop is more than music. Krip-Hop Nation is an international network of hip-hop and other musicians with disabilities, with a few chapters around the world, what we call MCs with Disabilities, MWD, in Germany, UK, Canada, and Africa. Krip-Hop is a community as well as a style of music, an artistic space where people with disabilities can speak out and speak back to the social structures that exclude people based on disability, race, and sexuality, and a whole host of other marginalized identities. As musicians / poets with disabilities, we know we have a rich artistic history from the blues to hip hop. Welcome to the 10th anniversary of Krip-Hop Nation 2017.
All right. So yeah, Krip-Hop Nation is 10 years old this year, and we do this with no funding, and we don't want to be tied up by grant deadlines and the nonprofit red tape. So we do it through our pockets and through places like this that could really respect it and bring us all together. So also, Krip-Hop has put out, I think, 4 CDs on the Krip-Hop mixtape, volume 1, 2, and 3. And today we have Emmett Thrower in the audience. And Emmett Thrower is a part of what we called police brutality against people with disabilities. So we did a CD around that in 2012. And I think it's, usually I don't say this a lot, but I'll say it because I need to pat myself on the back and other people. That is the first CD of its kind dealing with police brutality and people with disabilities. Also, like I said, with Image, we did a film documentary on police brutality against people with disabilities called Where is Hope? And you can get that online, or if you want me and Emmett to come and speak, we can do that too. In our future projects, we are hopefully going to do an all women's CD of Krip-Hop, and including transgender hip-hop artists, which is totally exciting. I've been dying to do this since Krip-Hop started, because you know the hip-hop industry is male-dominated, so we wanted to put that out. And Lisa Garsner is going to coordinate that, because I don't feel like I should be the first person, putting together an all-women CD. So Lisa's going to do that, and that's coming out soon. And also we're doing a South Africa CD around people with disabilities and non-disabled hip-hop artists in South Africa, and I'll talk more about our South Africa project coming up later in the presentation. Now we're gonna listen to DJ Quad. DJ Quad is an LA hip-hop artist with a disability. He's been involved with Krip-Hop since the beginning, and I helped produce the police brutality mixtape and the Krip-Hop 10th anniversary mixtape that just came out, and also the Krip-Hop 10th anniversary has the legend of the DNC. So DNC, Son Ron DNC is on the mixtape. But this is DJ Quad.
Yo, what up? This your boy DJ Quad, representing that Fifth Battalion Entertainment and Music, Los Angeles, California. Also that Krip-Hop Nation. That's right. Let me give you a little history about 5th Battalion and where I come from. It all started back in 1992, where I began producing music. But before that, I was a DJ out of high school. I always say, without music, my life would be a lot different than what it is today. Music is what saved me. Music gives me my sanity, my freedom, and escape from realities. I write it down, I play it, I bump it loud. It's what I do. I started getting into music since I was a young kid. But what really saved me is when I became a DJ back in 1986, hanging out with some friends in high school. It was something that I really loved to do. It caught my attention really, really quick. Soon after that, I felt I wanted to take it to the next level. I wanted to produce my own music. I had all these ideas inside my mind that I just felt I needed to get out. To me, I think that's what's really saved me. I grew up on the streets of Venice back in the days as a youngster. If it wasn't for being paralyzed, I don't know where I've been today. I think God saved me that one day that He put me in that direction and put my destiny in the way it was supposed to be, because now I look at it that way. I think God put me in this path, which I call my destiny now, and it actually opened my eyes to this life of music that I live today. As you see right now, here I am in Quad Studios, 5th Battalion Studio, also aka the bunker, or like they say in the bedroom, this is where the magic happens. That's right. A little bit about myself. Like I said, I started music back in the days, became a DJ, and then also started producing back in 1992. 1992, it was really fun being creative with that music. It was just something that was just really opening up my mind, expanding my creativity as an artist, as a creator, And as somebody who just didn't know what production was, I learned on my own, but also through the help of one man that I always say right now, rest in peace, David Sanchez. You are the one who showed me everything that I know about music. From there on, I just became a creator of music on my own, learning to feel what I know how to do. I think to me, music is what saved me in my life today. To me, hip-hop is a way of expression of life, expression of culture, expression of what you feel inside of you. You write that down on paper and pen, spit it in the booth, get on a hot track, make that shit a hot song. It's what it is. It's music. Music is, like I say, the expression of freedom. I am a co-founder of Fifth Battalion Entertainment, along with my boy and my best friend, Fernando Escobar. Back in the days, we started this entertainment company not knowing what it was going to be back in the days. Little did we know, it started escalating into something bigger and bigger. We started off with a couple of local artists, started doing some shows here and there, became bigger and bigger and bigger. Next thing you know, we're running the Sunset Strip in Hollywood. We got hip-hop shows twice a month. Fifth Battalion Entertainment was someone who opened up a lot of doors for a lot of different artists who never really had a chance to even step on the stage. Because when you go to different venues and stuff, they want to know if you got a label or how many people can you bring in. Basically, how much money can you make them at the bar and at the door. So we started taking over our own spots, and we became our own bosses. You know, giving other artists that probably would never had a chance to be performing on the stage, and we gave them that chance to perform on stage. Little by little, it started growing. We had 5 different artists, different groups, became 10, 20, 30, 50, 100 different artists and groups. That was back in 1997. 20 years later, we know hundreds, if not thousands of artists still doing our thing today. So as I said, I'm a music producer, a songwriter, now a studio engineer, artist management. I'm also still a promoter, still organize events. And I'm also proud to say I'm part of that Krip-Hop Nation with my boy Leroy Moore. Shout out to Leroy. Krip-Hop Nation is now on its 10-year anniversary, and I'm proud to be a part of it this whole time. Thank you to Leroy Moore for getting everybody together, all your hard work. The Krip-Hop Nation, man, ain't no joke. If you haven't heard of the Krip-Hop Nation, you better look that up. Krip-Hop Nation with a K. 10-year anniversary CD. You know, other CDs we have volumes 1, 2, and 3. Also Police Brutality Profiling album. Krip-Hop Nation has come a long ways, but we're not even done yet. There's still more to come. So be on the lookout for Krip-Hop Nation, DJ Quad, Leroy Moore, 5th Battalion Entertainment. So just remember this one more time. Music is life. Life is music. Love it, live it, breathe it. DJ Quad, 5th Battalion, Krip-Hop Nation. Peace. I'm out.
So sorry about that. YouTube has its own language. But you know, us and the tech people are doing our job. So wanted to go and speak about how important language is. Language is so important, and how people with disabilities and people that are minorities or oppressed people flip that language. 2 minutes, wow. So yeah, so we flipped that language, and Krip-Hop has, you know, flipped the term Crip. And usually people think about Crip as the gang, but we flipped it as a a positive thing. You know, we all, especially black and brown people, know that music and art are not only music and art, but was and still is a venue of resistance and hope. On slave ships, the dozens. Look at the word dozens. The dozens was a group of slaves, disabled slaves, and quote unquote useless slaves that used to battle each other and talking stories and poetry. That came the basis of hip hop. So once again, disability is a part of our history and a part of hip hop. We can go to the blues and look at Blind Willie Johnson. Blind Willie Johnson, back in the 20s, sat outside of the courtroom in New Orleans and sung his song, Dark Was the Night. And police thought he was starting a riot, but he was singing the song. Also in those stories was Josh White Sr. Josh White Sr. was a folk singer in the 20s and 30s and led blind blues artists all through the South. I had good fortune to interview his son that talked about that history and to talk about how there was huge amount of disabled and blind blues artists all through the South. So these are the kind of stories that have been left out from black scholars and music scholars, and Krip-Hop, brings those stories back in. But it's hard to do that today when we have a lot of cultural scholars and hip-hop artists using disability as something to be put down. Like, for example, Kendrick Lamar's new CD, Blood, has a song on his new CD called Blood. The song is, the CD is called Damn, and the song is called Blood. And he has a blind woman of color being the devil. So that's one aspect how popular media use disability as a oppressive thing. And we see it time and time again with Lady Gaga and Rick Ross using disability. We also see it in the Washington Post when they say that our president has a mental illness. So using disability to really put down people. So how can we, erase this stigma when we have this pressure from the outside? Krip-Hop Nation continues to do our songs that fit this kind of view. I know time is running out, but I want to play one hit song called Moan to Me. And this is how Krip-Hop uses the history and flip it to positive. Moan to Me is dedicated to Blind Willie Johnson, which he had a song that he just moaned throughout the song. So can we play that?
Moan to me, no, not my baby, going back down to the Delta. In the air you hear them holler, sweating in the southern humidity. Black blind men on corners, singing for the rent and dinner. Brian Willie Johnson moaned to me, wailing about black reality. No lyrics, no words.
Okay, because we're running out of time, I want to get to the international section because a lot of Krip-Hop artists did videos, explaining their lives and their hip hop in their countries. So we're gonna look at King Montana from New Mexico and Jack from Spain and Billy Saga from Brazil. And if we have time, I don't think we do, but we're going to try to look at Simon Mandela from South Africa. Me and Simon got together and planned a South Africa tour. It took us 3 years, but we did a tour in December in South Africa, going around interviewing artists with disabilities in 6 cities of South Africa. And we want to build it up to tour the whole Africa continent. But that's our long vision. So we're going to look at King Montana, and if we have time, the other videos, and we can cut it there. Okay?
What it do? What's poppin', everybody? It's your boy King Montana, CEO of Royal Fam, Flatboy in the building. And right now I'd like to give a special shout out to my man Leroy Moore, leader of the Krip-Hop Nation. Make sure to pick up our brand new mixtape, Police Brutality and Profiling the Broken Bodies Project, available worldwide on the internet. Also make sure to scoop up my new record, King Montana, How I Feel, available on iTunes. Once again, big special shout out to Leroy Moore, holding down the movement. Much love, my brother. Yeah.
Mi nombre es Jaque, soy MC y beatmaker en España. Hace unos cuantos días Leroy Moore me preguntó que si podía hacer un vídeo contando cómo es el hip hop en España para personas con discapacidad. Yo lo resumo muy fácil. Si el hip hop es lucha y es superación, para las personas con discapacidad es multiplicarlo por 4. Es muy complicado porque siempre se reciben 1000 veces más críticas. Es muy complicado porque no tienes apoyo, no tienes ayuda, y la poca gente que sobresale cuando se tiene discapacidad lo que intenta es buscar la sensibilidad de las personas, dando pena y buscando un morbo con su propia enfermedad. O sea, venden su propia enfermedad para conseguir una fama. Yo, por ejemplo, nunca he vendido mi discapacidad. Es algo que tengo, que sufro y que me tocó vivir. Y es verdad que he trabajado con asociaciones, que trabajo con asociaciones para dar charlas, para dar apoyo a niños con discapacidad, pero nunca he visto útil el conseguir dinero de mi propia enfermedad.
Salve, salve, aqui é Billy Saga, diretamente do Brasil. Sou MC aqui no Brasil há aproximadamente 25 anos. Já estou no meu segundo disco gravado e quero contar pra vocês minha trajetória aí em mais de 20 anos de rap. O rap no Brasil, ele passou por várias mudanças e de estilo, vários processos evolutivos. Eu faço rap desde a época que só era possível gravar o rap em vinil. Então era bem difícil o processo de produção, de acesso à produção, de acesso à tecnologia. Para lançar um disco você tinha que realmente contar com uma estrutura que era muito cara. você poder gravar um vinil e tal. Com a evolução da tecnologia, as coisas foram ficando mais fáceis, os home studios, a gente começou a conseguir gravar em casa com os computadores, com a evolução dos computadores, placas de som, e aí prensar o próprio, queimar o próprio CD para poder divulgar. Então a tecnologia ajudou bastante. Em relação à inclusão, eu sou cadeirante, eu sou rapper antes de eu ter uma deficiência. Eu sofri um acidente de moto, fui atropelado por uma viatura da polícia militar que ultrapassou o farol vermelho e me deixou paraplégico. Eu escrevo rap desde 94, em 98 eu me tornei cadeirante. Ao me tornar uma pessoa com deficiência, eu comecei a voltar as minhas letras, os temas, abordar os temas em relação à inclusão das pessoas com deficiência na sociedade, no meu trabalho musical. E além desse trabalho musical, eu faço um trabalho social de militância através de eventos socioculturais já há bastante tempo, através da associação Movimento de Superação. E as coisas na minha vida foram tomando esse rumo de luta e militância pelo direito das pessoas com deficiência, com o objetivo de realmente sensibilizar a sociedade em relação aos direitos da pessoa com deficiência e fomentar que as pessoas com deficiência protagonizem e lutem por esse processo de inclusão no Brasil. Eu acho que tem muito a evoluir, essa luta vai seguir até o fim, porque essa é a minha missão. Sou Billy Saga, diretamente do Brasil. Bom evento para todos, paz.
Trying to get through all of them, I'm sorry.
My name is Adim Yunus. I want to become an advocate for people with disability like Leroy F of Krip-Hop Nation. I want to thank everyone who have helped me get a wheelchair and pay my first 2 years of school. I am almost at my goal to graduate, but I need your help to continue with my secondary level. I will be glad if you help me. Please come to Uganda and visit me.
So we can stop there. Just a little thing about that project. I reached out to a Uganda reporter, and I told him, like, can you write an article about people with disabilities in Uganda? This was like 4 years ago. And he found a family, a single father with 2 disabled daughters. And he wrote an article, and we got it published in the San Francisco Bay View newspaper. And the 2 daughters needed wheelchairs. So we got together and started an Indiegogo campaign and raised funds, and got 2 wheelchairs to Uganda. And the daughter here said, yeah, thank you, Krip-Hop, but I need to go to school too. So we got back on our wagon and raised money for 2 years of her schooling. So now we're in the process of raising more money so she can finish her schooling. But yeah, that's one story that, Krip-Hop is more than hip-hop. So thank you, and yeah, we can open it up to the Yeah. Yeah, yeah. Intermission. Yeah.
Hey everyone, we're going to start in about 2 minutes, so if you want to start taking your seats, we're going to get started with the second half in about 2 minutes. Thank you.
Hi everyone, we're gonna get started if you don't mind taking a seat. Just a quick announcement. We wanted to let you know that the museum is open late tonight, so if you want, it's open until 10 p.m. You're very welcome to look around and stay and hang out. Check out the Biennial, it's gonna close soon. So it's my great honor to introduce tonight's organizers, Carolyn Lazard, Park McArthur, and Constantina Zavitsanos. Sorry, I tripped over your last name. Are artists who work across sculpture, text, and video. Their solo and collaborative work is informed in and by dependency, disability, and care. Recent exhibitions and events include Care, a rehearsal for a performance at Roots and Culture, Chicago, A New Job to Unwork at Art Space, New Haven, Canaries, Refuge in Means at Recess, New York, This Could Be Us at the New Museum, New York, and Sick Time, Sleepy Time, Crip Time Against Capitalism's Temporal Bullying at the Elizabeth Foundation for the Arts, New York. Carolyn, Park, and Tina are part of the East Coast Crip community as both caregivers and recipients. Current exhibitions include Carolyn Lazard's work in Raga, New York at the New Museum in New York, Constantina's work in Mene Mene Tekel Parson at Wysing Art Center in Cambridge, UK, and Park McArthur's work in her solo show, new work at SF MoMA in San Francisco, and here at the Whitney Biennial. Please help me welcome them.
So, thank you all. Yeah, thank you.
And thank you, Leroy. We wanted to have some love for you, so thank you so much. Yeah.
Thank you.
We also just wanted to start by playing Moan to Me, that song that you started. We're all like really excited to hear more of that, so we have that queued up in the back.
Maybe we could drop the lights a little bit.
Moan to me, no, not my baby, going back down to the delta. In the air you hear them holler, sweating in the southern humidity. Black blind men on corners, singing for the rent and dinner. Blind Willie Johnson moaned to me, wailing about black reality. No lyrics, no words, it's all about feelings. Free like a bird, but with no wings. Black blind men on corners, singing for the rent and dinner. Blind Willie Johnson moaned to me, wailing about black reality. Not one tear, Jim Crow fear. Michelle Alexander, yeah, it's still here. let's all moan. Trying to connect with our cell phones. All we want is human touch. Is that asking too much? Going back down to the Delta. News coming from the blues. Don't need media. Black blind men on corners. Singing for the rent and dinner. Blind Willie Johnson moaned to me. Wailing about black reality. Blues women show hip-hop queens how to get it done and work behind the scenes. Reveal to them who were really pulling the strings on guitar. And yeah, we have come so far. Moan for me. Moan about the game we still have to play. Moan 'cause nothing has changed. Moan, there are no words to say. Moan for me. Blind Willie Johnson, moan to me.
That was good.
Thank you. The music was done by Rob Denoise Temple from Brooklyn. And like I said, it just tells a story about Blind Willie Johnson and what we're living through today.
We were talking, like, me, can I say this? I'm just gonna say, me and Park and Carolyn were talking right after, and we were thinking about this kind of time travel that you do, where you have, like, I mean, this is really, Park said this, so I'm just biting Park right now, totally.
Bite it.
Okay, but I'm just saying, you're traveling in the two directions, right? You're going into the past and you're archiving or looking for the kind of erasure of disabled people, artists, musicians, right? And then you're also simultaneously navigating this world into the future, looking for more of us, right? So you're going in these two different directions, and there's a lot of slip in that. Like, there's a lot of, now this is not Park, so I won't blame this part on Park or Carolyn, but I've been thinking a lot about slip because I got this new powder for my little rashy elbows here, and it has a lot of slip, which means that it glides really nicely, right? It's like a particulate that gives something really smooth, right? And your song, you know, the moan to me does that too. It kind of messes. Like, I know you're like doing something like important. Like you're telling us a story. You're giving us a history, and you're also finding more people. But at the same time, like, there's a lot of slip in the song where your words fall off of the rest of the background music, or and they make this other music. You know, so I love this. Like, you have this like layers and these stacks and like things that are traveling in multiple directions, and I like that particulate. I like thinking about how Krip-Hop like both elaborates and messes with hip hop. Right?
Definitely.
So
Yeah.
thank you. I mean, I guess that's not a question. My question was, can we hear more music?
Well, there's Krip-Hop CDs, you know, out there, but the whole, the whole history of Black disabled people has always been there, but it's been oppressed from us. So really, like I said, bringing those stories to today and mixing it up with hip hop, because hip hop is the baby of the blues. They have the saying that blues are the roots the blues. And like I said in the beginning, a lot of blues artists had disabilities. So just taking that story and bringing it up to today.
I guess I had like two things that I was thinking about that I would be interested in having you comment about. I guess the first thing was, I think you touched on this a little bit, about like the sort of the appropriation of like the affect of disability in like popular culture and stuff. And I've seen you like talk about this in other places, but thinking about like mumble rap and like everything that's happening in rap now with like Lil Uzi Vert and like Future and like all of these rappers who basically like take on like what is a disabled affect in how they rap and like what it means that like, and I think there's ways to even think about that through other forms of like not just popular culture but also in like visual art and stuff, in ways in which like artists have taken on like a kind of Crip aesthetic as a way to like, you know, I don't know, like dismantle whatever tradition they're working in, and what does it mean that people like use disability as a means to like dismantle things, which is like interesting, but it can also be like actually just kind of whack and like problematic. And so like I'm interested in hearing like what you think about those rappers and like what you think about that music in relation to disability. And then my other question, I think, is more just generally, I think, just to provide some more context for like all the work that you do. It's like, you know, we know that Black disabled people are disproportionately affected by police violence, but maybe if you could speak to that specifically, like why is that, like what is the relationship between like those encounters and their like specificity with the police, but then also like how is, in the criminal justice system at large, like how is mass incarceration, you know, not just a means of like, I don't know, incarcerating, like thinking through the incarceration of disabled people through the criminal justice system, but then also how like the criminal justice system itself produces disability and how it's like this kind of big cycle. And I feel like that's a lot of what I've learned a lot about that through your work. I'm interested in hearing you sort of comment. I know those two things are kind of really different, but you can take one of them or either one.
Yeah, well, try to be brief on both of them. For hip hop, it's just amazing how hip hop, not only artists but researchers, you know, scholars, you know, hip hop academia don't know that disability is one of the main components of music, you know? And it's interesting how, you know, Lady Gaga and, you know, Kendrick, which I love Kendrick, but it's amazing how, you know, artists can take disability and rip off of it, but a disabled artist still can't make it in quote-unquote mainstream hip-hop. You know, do you know any mainstream, it's funny, it's like, what is mainstream hip-hop? But do you know any mainstream hip-hop artist that has a physical disability? It's just amazing that hip-hop's been around for, I don't know, 50 years or something like that, and there's not one major mainstream hip-hop artist with a disability. You know, why is that? You know, why we can look at the blues and look at all these disabled blues artists, but we can't look at hip-hop and point out a major, you know, artist with a disability. And I think it starts with really pushing back, and that's what Krip-Hop does, is push back on hip-hop, the scholars, the journalists, the activists, you know, and say, well, what's up, you know, what's up, you know, and, you know, it's ongoing, you know, it's ongoing. Yeah, it's frustrating to see the hyphy movement back in the Bay just rip disability to shreds, but don't give any love to disabled hip hop artists. You know, when hyphy started in the Bay, they were on all kinds of radio stations. Krip-Hop only got on KPFA. You know, it's like, what is that? You know, mumble rap. Mumble rap. It's like, I did that when I was growing up. It's called disability. It's frustrating, but I think that's why Krip-Hop says that we are more than music. You know, trying to advocate for our space, and also not for our space, but knowing that we lean on a rich history of disabled artists, from freak shows to the circus to the blues. You know, there's a long history of that. And, you know, when I see hip hop studies don't talk about that history, you know, I love the new Jim Crow, the book. But Jim Crow, the person had a disability. It's like, yeah, I love you, Michelle Alexander, but where's disability? Jim Crow, the person had a disability. You know, the prison pipeline from the schools, most of this from special education. You know, where is that talk? You know, so, yeah, we had a lot of work to do. And it's coming from each one of us, you know, not only Krip-Hop, but each one of us has to push, you know, our community to really, you know, say, hey, you know, your research is incomplete. I was talking to an author that did a whole book on the sickle cell media program under the Black Panthers. And he's like, oh, I never thought about disability. It's like, you just did a book on sickle cell. I'm like, hello, and he never, you know, talked to a disabled scholar. And it's like, wow. You know, so yeah, we got a lot of work to do. You know.
Well, I was really struck by the story you were talking about, writing letters. And then now, with the Krip-Hop work that you're doing, you're still writing letters, but you're performing those letters. I mean, it's the words, you're performing, you're delivering a different form of communication. I'm just curious, like, what you think we should be doing? Should we be writing letters, and who should we be writing to, and how should we be making ourselves present for people, like, so that we can move things in the right direction?
Well, I think today is a good example. You know, I mean, having Krip-Hop at the Whitney, you know, I mean, that's a good example. You know, and every individual person can do a little something. You know, write a letter or pass on a Black disabled blog. You know, pass on a queer Black disabled blog to all these media that talk about intersectionality, but really don't talk about disability. It's amazing how intersectionality is like a big turn now, but I see professors talk about it and nothing around disability. It's like, not again, you know, so passing on other work to professors and to writers, you know, and just keep on doing it. I know it sounds like an isolated, you know, incident, but just keep on doing it, you know.
Do you know anyone
want to get into that? What time is it? Wow. All right, let's get into it. I'm gonna make it short because we had the whole panel, so I don't want to take up the time. But police training, and you can see Emmett Thrower's work on, Where's Hope. I've been involved with police brutality cases around people with disabilities since the 80s, 89, 88. It's 2016, and the same cycle happens over and over again around people with disabilities. I love what Black Lives Matter is doing, but once again, they haven't had a really disability justice kind of framework. You talk about training. That one answer has been going around for decades. And, back in the 80s, I thought that was the answer. And back in the 90s, I thought that was the answer. Today, and excuse my language, I was like, fuck training. Because it's been here since the 80s. So it's not about training. It's about flipping our focus. Because we focus on the police. And I say, yeah, families, yeah, go to court, get justice in court. But we need to switch our focus from what the police need to what the community needs. Can you imagine if we did all those trainings in the community? So a neighbor can call the neighbor and say, my autistic son is having, meltdown, can you help? And come. All the focus is focused on the police since the 80s. And from that focus, they get all the money, they get all the resource. When we come back home to our communities, and nothing's there. So I say, let's switch the focus, and let's switch the focus to our community and what our community needs. So we don't need to call the police. We can call our neighbor, But that's a hard switch to do because that's taking the focus off the police. That's taking the money off the police. You've had decades about training. If you're not going to do it right, let's get our money back and give it to the community.
Yeah, I'm laughing because I agree.
I just hear that constantly over and over again. It just blows my mind.
Yeah, train them to do what?
To arrest disabled people
I like
better.
when you said since the 80s, like it might have been the 1780s.
Ethan Saylor was killed in Maryland by the police.
Yeah.
In the movie theater, and a young man in his 20s. Thank you. Ethan Saylor, young man in his 20s with Down syndrome, was killed by the police, and the NDSS for a while were talking about trying to reach out to police departments to figure out how to have them deal with people particularly with intellectual and cognitive disabilities and how to communicate in those circumstances. In Ethan Saylor's case, he had a paraprofessional with him, and yet that was not enough. The police just wouldn't listen.
Exactly.
We lost a good man, a good citizen. I mean, Ethan was by all accounts a superstar in his community, man. And I got a son who's got that disability. He's got Down syndrome, and I worry for him every day. And I think about how do I teach my son to operate in this world and to navigate the complexity of this, just people missing the point, people just being afraid, people not getting, that you got to take the time to communicate. This is important. You got to take the moment to hold off. What's happening here? We're all human beings. Let's figure this out. The police, they're on autopilot, and everybody in that culture is operating on that same script, and we got to get them off that script. And we just got disruption. We got to disrupt that.
Yeah, I agree.
Sorry, that wasn't a question. I don't know, man.
I agree.
I feel you.
I think also we have to really push our movements. You know, like I said, I've been around police brutality since the 80s. I saw Mothers Against Police Brutality, so October 22nd, now Black Lives Matter. And really, none of them, except October 22nd, really dealt with the disabled community. You know, and I think that's it. You know, if our movers are not going to deal with it, then the police and our community and our media is not going to deal with it. And that's the hard part. That's really the hard part for me, is that a lot of community members and movements don't deal with disability justice because it's not sexy. You know, it's not a grant. You know, it's not a grant cycle, so it's not sexy. But you know, we have to change that, and it's gonna start small. You know, it's not gonna be a hashtag movement. No, knock on your neighbor's door and say, "Hey, neighbor, let's talk. Let's get to know each other." So I get to know your son and daughter with a disability. That's how it's gonna happen. It's not gonna happen on Fox News. You know, it's gonna happen in your apartment complex.
Yeah.
You know.
The future will not be televised.
How is that? I mean, not to put both of you on the spot, but I was just thinking a little bit about, like, what are some of the ways in which the Harriet Tubman Collective is, like, both bringing the conversation to you all, and also how are you kind of making sure some of the conversation is, like, switched a little bit? If you can talk a little bit about that work.
You want to start? You start. I talked a lot.
Yeah, I mean, I think in a lot of ways the Harriet Tubman Collective was just like a means of, like, coalition building. I mean, it's completely run online. Like, most of us have never met in person, and that's because, like, you know, ableism is, like, alienating, you know, so it's, like, hard for us to all, like, get together. But I think, like, the thing that's really great about Harriet Tubman Collective is that it's like points in both directions around the issue of, like, police terrorism, which is that, like, it sort of, or even within, like, activist circles or advocacy circles, it sort of, like, addresses, like, the Black Lives Matter movement. Like, we're in direct conversations with people within Black Lives Matter to sort of talk about disability erasure within the movement, because, you know, every time there's some, like, big, you know, another Black disabled person is, like, murdered by the police, and there's, like, this huge, like, mediation of it and, like, a hashtag, et cetera, that disability is usually entirely erased from the narrative. But what we're seeing is that the majority of these people who are getting murdered by the police are actually Black people with disabilities, primarily psych or cognitive disabilities. And sometimes a lot of these things are really complex and involve, you know, issues that have to do with, like, economic and environmental access, like lead poisoning, et cetera, and it's like, I don't know, it's like an incredibly complex issue, but it's also this thing that's, like, so obvious, but there's just, like, no conversation about it. It's like the majority of the people, and yet, like, it's not being talked about. So it's like addressing sort of people working around police brutality as an issue of racism to the exclusion of disability, and then also working within disability communities, which are also dealing with sort of, like, rampant, like, racism and have not necessarily taken on a fully, like, intersectional approach to talking about disability and understanding that, you know, disability also disproportionately affects Black people and people of color, and that, like, that needs to be, like, a really integrated part of the conversation. So it's kind of like doing this little dance between the two. So I think that's, like,
and even, like, the name, and also your first question on, like, Black Disability Art 101, where you're like, oh, okay, to even think about Harriet Tubman as a disabled woman is, like, the first, like, kind of love letter, or, like, this other kind of reaching back and out towards, like, a community member and person who is like generation, like preceding us by generation.
And I think that's like, I mean, I know both of you had mentioned that when you were talking before, and Tina did too, but that's like what's so great about the work that you do is it's this like reaching back and this kind of like archival process that allows us to like produce our own like historical narrative of like Black disability, which like it isn't actually written, you know, it exists, but it only exists when we like produce it.
And that's that. Yeah, and it's also this completely like anarchival or like anarchic kind of making of a community or whatever. It's like in the making. Like when I say that, I'm saying like anarchy, and also like against the archive.
Yeah.
It's like you're archiving, but not in, not in the corny way. Like no, okay.
Not in the academic.
I know there's archivists that I love in the audience. I'm really sorry, Tara. I just mean like there's something anarchic about it. Like there's something that's like in the making about it. That's not just wow, I'm gonna offend somebody in here. It's like it's not just tucked away. You know, it's like a living archive.
I think sorry, I was gonna say one.
Yeah.
The other thing I was gonna mention about Harriet Tubman is I think what's really amazing is that it's really intergenerational, and that there's like there's like multiple generations of like Black disabled folks in the group, and so you have like, we have like elders such as yourself and like people who've been doing this work for a really long time, and then you have like people like on the other end of the spectrum who are like, hashtag like Black and disabled, and like, are sort of figuring out how this thing like manifests on the internet and how we can sort of like utilize social media to like bring awareness to some of these issues.
Yeah, it's so great to have the Harriet Tubman Collective now, because, back when I was growing up in the 80s, there was nothing. I mean, nothing. I used to go to police commission hearings here in New York and Connecticut, and there was nothing. And back then, it was mostly Black or brown disabled people getting shot by police. I mean, nothing, so had to have the Harriet Tubman coalition. It really feels like, there's new activism that's happening that needs to happen. I'm so glad for that, Yeah, I think we got 10 minutes left. Right?
Yeah, we got a few more. We've got mics that are coming around too, so if you have a comment or question.
Leroy, do you have recollections?
Well, can we get other voices in the room? I'm sorry, I just want voices that haven't spoken.
Hi, this is Leslie Taub speaking. Hi. I have a couple of observations building up to a question, I guess, about invisible disability and its place within Krip-Hop, or its places. My first observation is that when I first became familiar with Krip-Hop Nation, which I guess was 10 years ago, a lot of the focus really was very much on physical disability, and hearing and reading your poetry and performance, Leroy, and other members of that community. It was very focused there. At the same time, now that we're talking about police brutality, and as Carolyn was saying, most of the Black disabled people who are profiled by police now and who have been killed recently have had cognitive or psych disabilities. So those observations, and then also, I think there's, at least in my communities, there's sort of a growing awareness of mental health issues within, among especially Black feminists and allies. And some of the people that you, I guess, some of the artists that you talked about, like Lady Gaga is now, she has bipolar disorder. She's an advocate around that. Kendrick Lamar struggles with depression, and yet they're using physical disability as a narrative prosthetic in their music and their videos, right? So I guess what I'm wondering is, with all of those pieces, how do you see the role of madness, psych disability, invisible disabilities? How do you see the sort of the role of that group of disability experiences and Krip-Hop's stance on those evolving, kind of? Like, am I making any sense?
Yeah, thank you for that question. And you're right, in the beginning, it was, some mainly physical, disabled people that reached out to me. Also, we had Lady NJ from UK, one of the early members that used that had seizures, that had a visible disability. I see, of course, in Krip-Hop, we see, mental health disability as, of course, a part of Krip-Hop. And I'm kind of iffy on the mainstream hip-hop taking over mental health, because if you look closely, it's coming from the medical model. There's a lot of mental health hip-hop coalition and projects that are doing good work, but they're coming from a medical model. So I really worry about this heightened mental health in hip-hop. I'm glad it's finally coming out, but once again, it's not coming out as people on the ground. It's coming out as more as a medical model. Although artists are talking a lot and rapping about it, I guess I need to be happy with that, and I am. But I want them to go deeper. I want them to really challenge where it's coming from. They really challenge the medical model of disability, and that education comes from activists on the ground. And I don't think a lot of hip hop artists don't have the connection back to disabled activists on the ground, that they can teach them how to refocus that focus and refocus their projects, because I see it a lot. A lot of mental health and hip hop are collaborating and doing classes and stuff like that and projects, but I'm happy on one end, and on the other end, I just wish that they had more disability justice in the mix.
Thank you.
I wanted to say that I said it in the presentation that hip hop and the music industry is so male dominated, and for years Krip-Hop wanted to do an all women, transgender CD around disability, and I started thinking about this project like 4 or 5, 6 years ago, and I was trying to get female artists in hip hop to take it over. It's not up to me to be the face for it. I'll do the background stuff. So it took 4 or 5 years to get the real person to take it over, and I'm really excited for that CD to come out. I think, and I'm not patting myself on the back, I think Krip-Hop CDs are really taking the forefront on issues like police brutality, you know, the women's CD that's going to come out, you know, so, yeah. I hope more professors and school teachers, you know, take it in and really teach a class about it, you know, because it hits all areas, race, disability, world history. I mean, come on, you know, you just saw people from Brazil and Spain, you know, especially now. My really focus in the last 5 years is internationally, is a worldwide, because there's so much going on the worldwide stage around disability that we can learn now with this idiot in the White House, because a lot of people with disabilities outside the U.S. have lived through those idiots called the government. So we can really learn on their tactics and their way that they survive, you know, and their activism, you know. I didn't have a chance to talk about it now, but and I guess most of you have witnessed the media journalism around the protests in Bolivia. Amazing, you know, and you know, taking protests to a different level. But it's not only a utopia thinking about they had to do it. They live off of $10 a month. $10 a month. You know, can you imagine living off of $10 a month in the U.S.? So it's not a utopia kind of thinking, but it's really, you know, looking at that and seeing how we can learn from that, especially with this idiot in the White House, because we're fastly approaching that kind of stage, you know.
Cool, I think we're going to wrap up unless there's another question or comment.
Come on.
Allison's going to
I'll
kick
leave
it off with the
tomorrow.
comment. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.